Whenever you're ready to get started, we can get started. It looks like we have most of the good 30% or good 60, so 70% of the people who've signed up.
Okay, that's great. Thanks, Will. Thank you very much for helping to set all this up. And thank you to all of you who are joining in. I know it's unusual and strange times, but thankfully we have this technology that we can still connect and get something done. This is the Small Business Committee meeting, Monday, April 6, 2020. This meeting is going to be mostly informative. I've reached out to a lot of small business owners over the course of the past 7 days to see where they are, to see how all of this is affecting them. Obviously, this is extraordinary times, and a lot of people are, having to be extraordinary in keeping their small businesses afloat. A lot of them, their doors are actually shuttered, as we know if you take a look around the neighborhood. And I think that it's going to be tough for an awful lot of people. So I don't want to take up too much time chatting. I'll just remind everyone that we really can't afford to kind of ramble too much. So when we have points to make, try and make them. I try to hold myself to that as much as possible as well, although I don't have a good track record when it comes to not rambling. I'm going to just exit here, so you're probably going to have a blank screen, and I'm going to bring up my notes. I've got a bunch of notes here, which are just stuff that I want to read out to everyone. It's basically just information from small business owners about what they're facing. It'll probably take about 3 to 4 minutes to read out. Okay, so if you just bear with me. Thank you.
Nick, while you're looking at your notes, can I give a little quick comment to everybody using Zoom? Maybe some of you, it's your first time. Everybody is muted. You are not able to unmute yourself. Mick and I are able to speak. The way to be heard in this meeting, whenever you need to ask a question or you want to raise a point at some point, is to raise your hand, not visibly, but actually through the participants button. At the bottom of your screen, you'll see a button marked participants. It'll have an icon of a couple people with a number next to it. Clicking on that will open a box that has everybody who is in the meeting, and you'll see all of their names and their video and their little microphone. And at the bottom of it, on the left-hand corner of that box, will be either a hand icon or a button that says raise hand. You can even practice right now if you need to, but try to find that button. If you're going to want to talk during the meeting at some point, you will need to be called on by Mick and unmuted by me, so that we can just have an organized and orderly meeting. There gets a lot of feedback if people leave themselves unmuted. So that's what we're doing. So if you're on the phone, it's important to know that you too can raise your hand. That button is *9. To raise your hand, all you have to do is hit *9 at any point and you'll raise your hand. That is really all. If I'm going to put my email address in the chat box. You can also chat me at any point in the meeting if you're having difficulty using the Zoom platform. But I'll also put my email address in the chat box so you can send me an email if you need to. So without further ado, Mick, if you're ready.
Thanks so much, Will. So like I said, I just have basically a list with some opinions from business owners here. Some of the business owners were very good in getting back to me with their thoughts. And these don't really come in any order. So I'm just going to start. What small business owners need right now. The first thing that I was told was some sort of grants. Now, the PPP, which is the payroll protection, that was brought in last week by the federal government as part of the CARES Act. It's finally got up and running on Friday. As of Friday the 3rd at 12 p.m, it was still unavailable, even though it had been voted on. It was still unavailable for business owners to apply for. I know that changed over the weekend, but as of today, I've heard from many business owners who are having a really difficult time finding any banks. There's a lot of uncertainty there. One major uncertainty about these loans is that they're for payroll protection, but many of our local restaurants and bars in particular shuttered about 3 weeks ago, and staff were encouraged in the industry to apply for unemployment with the 10-day waiting period waived. So there is a massive grey area with all of this. If a business is unable to hire the same amount of employees after 8 weeks, will that affect the possibility of the loan being forgiven? These were a couple of questions that were raised. I think the spirit of the PPP with the SBA loans is great, but as of right now, it's not proven to be too successful for a lot of people, between difficulties getting on to apply and a lot of the grey area that's been mentioned. Another huge second point that's massive with every owner operator that I spoke to is the issue of rents. Although there is a 90-day non-eviction clause in place, businesses aren't operating right now, or at least operating solely on a barely significant level just in order to stay relevant. Is there anything that can be done to help local business owners who are in a tough position with landlords and leases right now? From the people I spoke to, they'd like to see some sort of a pause in paying rents and utilities. These are a lot of unforeseen bills that a lot of people don't realize small businesses have to deal with, like the rest of we do. Operators would like to see a pause in paying rents and utilities, but as was also pointed out to me, landlords are also business operators and they have property taxes, etc., to be paid too. So any solutions to when it comes to the issue of rents and small local businesses need to be multifaceted and take into account all sorts of aspects. I know that the Community Board and East Midtown Partnership and a number of different organizations have been brilliant about compiling a list of operating businesses. It was pointed out to me by a business owner who had to close just a week ago that this is a great idea to let the public know which businesses are still open for business. One great thing that the local community can do is to support those businesses, whether it's getting your groceries from there or ordering in once a week if you're so inclined to. A lot of businesses are simply employing workers right now on a part-time basis just so that they can say that they're still open, because there's little or no traffic coming in. On the issue of the list of operating businesses, the only kind of problem with that is that, as I'm sure most of you have seen, a lot of businesses at the moment are open one day and then they're closed the next, or their hours aren't as solid as they used to be. That's another issue. A lot of the owners I spoke to in the last few days is information. They'd like to be able to get as much information that's out there as possible to help them with the issues that they're facing right now, but it's proving near impossible for many because there's an awful lot of information that's coming to them. So once again, we have the issue of quality over quantity. A couple of people I spoke to during the week, one or two restaurant owners have pretty much stopped looking at the news because they just don't know what to believe anymore. A sales tax abatement and perhaps a payroll tax could be helpful. This might be something that the powers that be in city government might be able to help with. I'm not a pro when it comes to that sort of stuff. So to the people who might have a bit more opinions on that, that would be something to think about. There's been also an exodus of people leaving the neighborhood. There's a lot of people have left for their second homes, etc., in smaller communities, or leaving to be with family who need them in this terrible time. So aside from the struggles of stay-at-home orders and everything that's going on right now that's hurting our small businesses, there's also a lot less customers who probably would normally be ordering in. That's another factor that's worrying to an awful lot of our local businesses that are still operating. And this is something that was sent to me this morning from Gavin Whiston, who owns a restaurant actually downtown, not in this neighborhood, but I know him quite well. He just wanted me to say he thinks the biggest worries for people are rent, landlord actions, and staff getting by. After that, it's looking after ourselves and our families. That's big specific to each individual situation. Obviously, there's a big percentage of undocumented workers who pay tax on their numbers they won't be able to claim unemployment on. That does happen. Plus, they won't be getting stimulus checks. How do they survive? They are part of our community also, after all. There's big fears for them and how to take care of them. The CARES Act focuses mainly on payroll protection, If you don't meet the criteria of hiring back the same workforce in June, then it just becomes another loan. The business is not going to be what it was when we reopen, with social distancing regulations probably still in effect. And opening possibly in the middle of summer, it's unrealistic to think that the service industry can survive with full payroll and operating costs. Rents will need to be renegotiated, at least for the short term, and we will need ongoing support for wages if they want us to keep everyone on the books. If we can do those things, we have a chance to get through this. One other thing that hasn't been brought up too much, I'm sure it will be, is insurance. We in the service industry need to be able to claim that they can't say that we're not covered under business interruption rules. Our property was damaged since the virus can live on our property, in our property, and be passed on to other guests. We were mandated closed by the government. Insurance companies need to pay. People need to spread the word about this. The service industry employs almost 20 million people across the United States, making it the single biggest sector employer in the country. The people behind this, he's talking about something else here now. So that's basically the core of what I've gotten from a lot of our local business owners over the last couple of days with issues that they think we need to be at least discussing and focusing on. And at this point, I'm just going to move off my notes so I can go back to all of your pretty faces. And that's really kind of all I have to say. I just want to open up that with those points. I would like to encourage any small business owners who are on this meeting to make themselves known, because I would like to get a moment or two of your time just to be able to, you know, give us your experience over the past week or so. And I do see Alida has her hand up right now. So Will, if you want, we can let Alida have her say.
Thank you. There's been a lot of information on our updates. There's legislation pending in Albany to require insurance companies to cover business interruption, even if the policy says there's no virus exception, doesn't allow business interruption insurance. We posted information from a law firm that had to do with business interruption insurance and coverage. Utilities, I think, there's a pause on utilities. I believe that there's something also in Albany about commercial rent, and I've been urging our city legislators to also talk to commercial landlords and try to get them to pause it. There's an eviction pause for both residential and commercial tenants over, I believe it's the next 90 days.
That's true.
So, yeah, so although it's hard to remember everything, if you go back over our updates or look at city and state websites, there's a lot of information and ways to help small business. I'd also like, Mick, and I appreciate you doing this and reaching out to all of the small businesses. And I know that they've spoken to me that commercial rent deferrals are not enough. They actually need some kind of waiver or reduction in rent so that they're not socked with a big charge at the end. It's important also to look at the future and how it's going to work with reopening and getting people in. My family and I have been ordering some meals for our doormen so that we are helping small businesses and feeding people who are essential, at least to our building as well. And I know La Familia posted, it is a citywide chain, but maybe other places are doing this too, that if you buy a pizza from their 97th Street store, they'll send another one along at their cost to the workers at Mount Sinai. So thank you for all of this time. And I am muting myself, or Will can mute me, or you can mute me. Thank you so much, Mick.
Thank you, Alida. Thanks very much for that information. That's very helpful. Okay. Okay. I see Samantha Myers has her hand raised, and we can go to Samantha.
Hi.
Hi, Samantha.
I'm a small business owner. It's not a restaurant. It's a kids focused business on East 85th.
Right.
I just want to put my 2 cents in. It's called Let's Dress Up. It's on 85th between 1st and 2nd. We do princess play and birthday parties for little kids. So we had to close on March 15th. And we've had like something like 21 at last count birthday party cancellations. I've reached out to the landlord. He has been nice, but non-committal. So not kind of, you have to pay right now, but no sign that he's going to forgive any portion of it. I have been, in addition to homeschooling my 5-year-old, trying to follow all the PPP. I've applied for the EIDL grant, which have gone nowhere thus far. So I'm here kind of trying to stay in the loop and trying to be as educated as I can. It's super challenging, as everybody on this call I'm sure knows. Summer is not great for us for a variety of reasons business-wise. So losing half of March, the April Easter vacation, and if we lose June birthday parties, I'm very concerned. And so I'm just trying to get wisdom anywhere I can. I'm following everyone that, you know, puts out stuff about this and trying to apply. I'm nervous that because we have kind of a part-time staff, most of our employees are 1099 because we only use them if we have parties booked. I'm concerned that I'm kind of not going to fit into a bucket. And so I'm trying to just pay attention to everything that might affect me or apply to me, you know?
Right.
So
Thanks,
I appreciate the call, and I'm happy to kind of take in everything that anyone has to say.
Yeah, and we appreciate it. Thank you so much. I have a quick question for you. Are you on the mailing list for the community board?
Yes.
Email us. So okay.
Email? Yes.
Yeah. So you do receive the emails with the information that they send out. And...
Yeah.
Okay, very good. And I'm sure some of the other community board members may have some suggestions. Some of our local council people, they've got some very informative stuff that they send out every day as well. I know I get Gale Brewers every day, and I find that very informative.
Okay.
Again, like I said, this is more of an informative meeting just to see what's happening out there, and also just to kind of communicate that with everyone, and hopefully have some suggestions and some forward happening. And I appreciate your business. I know it very well, actually. I spent a long time in 85th Street, so thanks very much for your opinions and thoughts. That's really helpful.
Thanks.
I'm going to go, if you don't mind, I'm just going to go right now to John Phillips, who has his hand up, because I know John is also a local business owner. And then I'll take, and then I'll have Barbara up next, and then Alida. Thank you so much. Hi, John.
Hey, good evening, everyone. Nice to see everyone all in one spot during these trying times. Thank you for calling on me. Let me start with Samantha's last comment. So I started already the process of trying to get the payroll assistance. My bank was able to put that application in for me. So if you work closely with the bank, odds are your banker will be able to point you in the right direction. If not, actually placing that application for you. Secondarily, I started looking into some of the grant style assistance. I know that there's something floating around out there that provides a $10,000 grant, provided you meet some of the criteria, which I believe you may. I can always forward you a link to that if it's helpful for you. Specifically, I just wanted to kind of go over what we've been doing and where we are right now. We're kind of at a crossroads. So we've been open throughout. We're going to be closing this Thursday. We started with regular business hours, then we amended, and now my staff are really getting concerned with the kind of magnitude of the situation. So Thursday will be closed for at least 1 week. In my experience, it hasn't been a shortage of staff. It's been a shortage of staff willing to work, and rightfully so. We've done our best to support them. We try to stick with the same core group of employees coming in so we don't unnecessarily expose ourselves. We've been disinfecting the streets and the restaurant 4 to 5 times a day. And we've also been feeding New York Presbyterian, Lenox Hill, Mount Sinai, and I have a 450 person order going out to NYU on Wednesday. Why is that important? It's important because there's a lot of necessity for business to remain open. Unfortunately, through our best efforts, I don't think that's going to be possible going into next week as we meet the apex of this thing. What the local and federal government can do by way of assistance in the long haul is going to be, excuse me, of the utmost importance. And there's very little we can do as individuals at this point, other than supporting each other and making sure we get to the end of this thing.
That's it's a shame that you're having to shut her down on Thursday, John. I wish you all the best, man.
Yeah, you know, it is what it is.
Again.
It's a matter of protecting my staff and the community. That's the bottom line for us.
Yeah, I have to reiterate that the businesses that have stayed open have been just amazing. And I'd also like to say I know an awful lot of businesses that shut down initially before they were ordered to, for the same steps that you're talking about. I think, you know, hopefully when this is all said and done, we'll be able to give people as much business as possible and really help people out, because a lot of our local business owners really have pulled together throughout all this. But thanks very much for that, John.
Thank you for hearing me out.
I really appreciate it. Thanks, mate. I'm going to go to Barbara Rudder next.
Thank you, John, and hi, and John and Samantha, you make me very sad. I'm sorry, John, that you have to close, and I'm worried, but that's not what I wanted to say. John may have, maybe what I'm saying, John would say I'm wrong, but I know somebody that was applying for some of the grants and said it's really hard to do. I have a neighbor that does some work for an NGO where she actually processes a lot of grants for the federal government. Comes in and says who's willing to bid on this and this and this, and that's what she does. She said, I'm sure I could process it and I'd be willing to help. I don't want to talk for her, but I wonder if anybody is a small business person that's finding this an arduous task and a bank can't help, whether we should be getting volunteers and maybe reaching out, and that's something we could do to help process some of the papers. We know the government usually doesn't make things easy.
That's a great idea. That's a fantastic idea. And I'm writing this down right now.
Coach her again. She's my neighbor and has a high-level job at an NGO, and
helps with grant application, I suppose you call it, right?
I gather what she does, she travels all over to the weirdest places in the world. You know, she was in Ethiopia recently and so on. And the government says which agency can set up a cooperative in Ethiopia, as an example. And she has to go through and read all the instructions and do the grant and so on. So she said, I'm just so used to doing this, I could probably do it in my sleep. But from what I hear, it's not easy to do. I don't know, John, do you agree, whether John agrees with me or not?
No, it doesn't look like it's an easy process. My fiance is a business owner herself, and she's been looking at it all weekend. And it seems to be that either the sites are crashing or the banks don't have their information up correctly or not yet. It's just proven to be a really, really difficult time. She actually even reached out to her own accountant today, who wasn't really able to give her that much help. He was able to give her all the information in terms of applying, but the actual nuts and bolts of it seems to be impossible.
I think a lot of small businesses probably don't keep the type of data carefully that you're being required to do at this point, because it's hard to do.
Yeah, true.
So that's
Very
just
true.
what I have to say.
I really appreciate that, Alida.
Yeah.
Or Barbara, I really appreciate that. And if you could, I mean, if you wouldn't mind, just if you could have a chat with your neighbor, just see, I mean, I don't know how that kind of stuff works. I mean, obviously there must be people out there who do this for a living, I suppose.
She'd be willing to volunteer, I think.
Yeah, okay. Maybe if we get volunteers who do that, that would be a step in the right direction.
Everybody's yelling and screaming outside at you.
Yeah, it's the nice part of the day where people actually have something positive. So.
That they like it, that it's meaningful. So
yeah, it's meaningful. All right, thank you so much for that, Barbara. I'm going to go to Alida next. Alida has her hand up.
Thank you. I think I'll post something looking for volunteers to help with grants, but I wanted to mention we had posted something for undocumented workers through an organization that's providing small grants for undocumented restaurant workers. So
Okay.
people can look on that and look at that. And there's also pandemic unemployment insurance for people who don't fit into the traditional unemployment insurance bucket, self-employed independent contractors. And that might be a useful way of getting some kind of funding to carry people through this difficult time. Thank you.
Thanks, Alita. I appreciate that. Could you do me a favor and maybe just send me that information for the undocumented people again?
Sure, I'll have to go through it. Do you need
know,
that
if you-
now or is
No, I
later?
don't need it now. No, I don't need it
Okay.
now. No, that's something I could probably send to people that I know myself. Thanks so much, Alita. Next up on the list, we have Gail Barron. How are you?
I am fine, thank you.
Good.
Samantha, this could be of help to you and some of the other female entrepreneurs. I found out today that Sarah Blakely, who's the CEO and the founder of Spanx, she's giving a $5,000 grant for women-owned businesses. And apparently there will be 1,000 grants. I mean, there'll be for businesses throughout the nation. And I'll get the link for you. I can give it to Mick, and also I'll send it to Will Brightville, our district manager. But I know it's Global Giving is going to be the vehicle, and it's the Red Backpack Fund. And I don't have the exact link, but I'll find that for you because that could be very helpful. It's a pure grant, not a loan.
That's
So
great.
hopefully that's good information.
That is great information. Thanks very much for that. And again, like it was pointed out to me, grants are going to be really wonderful for a lot of our business owners.
Right.
Because of a lot of the strings that are attached to PPP and of course the emergency, the EIDL it's called. We don't know if these loans will be forgiven. So maybe we're just creating more debt for a lot of people who really don't need it right now. You know, so if anybody has any info on grants, like what Gail just mentioned there, again, it's Sarah Blakely. She's the lady that owns Spanx. And she's given $1,000, $5,000 grants for women-owned business across the country.
Correct.
That's great. I'll look that up online myself when we close and see if I can find some more information about that as well. Thanks so much, Gail.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
I actually believe that that'll already be in our next update.
Brilliant.
So everybody stay tuned. I think
That's
it
great.
may have been in Gail Brewer's update or maybe Carolyn Maloney's. So,
Fantastic.
but we'll make sure we have it in our next update. And sorry to interrupt you, Mick. I just want to
No,
remind
you're
everybody who joined in afterwards, after we started, to raise your hand to be able to be called on by Mick. You need to click on participants. If you're on a computer, it is at the very bottom of your screen is an icon of two little people and has a number next to it. Right now, that number is 28. If you click on that, it opens a chat or a box that has everybody's names. And in the bottom left-hand corner of that is a raise hand button. It either says raise hand or is an icon of a hand that looks raised. And that's how you'll get called on by me. Oh, and if you're on the phone, it's *9.
Okie dokie. We're going to just move it right along. And next, I've got Laurie. Miss Boris, how are you?
Hello, I'm well,
How are you?
thank you.
Good to hear from you.
I wanted to address this to Samantha, and I wanted to just ask, have you considered the possibilities of doing things digitally? And the reason I mention this is because my daughter was just here this past week, and she works for my gym in Brooklyn, and she was both recording and live streaming these, I guess they were classes for kids, but I mean, what I'm saying is that I think that it might be possible to do it, for parties. And I can't really give you any more information about that. I was just listening to her while she was doing this, but she has not lost her job. And the reason is because they're doing all of this, where it used to be a place that, you'd bring your kids and they would do whatever they had to do. But now they're doing it online. So it's just a suggestion. I know that it's really difficult and it's not the same thing, but I'm just, giving a possibility.
Yeah, that's a great suggestion, Laurie. And I know an awful lot of people have been doing a lot of work now. A lot of work has transitioned to the virtual world. And especially actually, just as you mentioned it, I saw something on BBC the other day about they're doing it everywhere, doing virtual birthday parties for kids now at the moment, which that's the other thing. We want to make sure that the children aren't too freaked out by all this either and trying to keep their lives as normal as possible. But there is that there. I'm not sure if Samantha's still with us. Let me just check here to see the participants.
She is. Would you like me to
She is.
unmute her?
Yeah, if you'd like, if Samantha wants to respond to that at all, it's entirely up to her. If she,
Hi, I'm here. Thank you for that. We've definitely thought about it. We do dress up and tea parties. So we have like tons and tons of costumes and accessories and shoes and all of this stuff for them to choose from. So we can't really translate the exact experience. So where we've kind of netted out is we're going to put up some free content, like us reading stories about princesses, and my daughter's going to do some stuff, but we don't feel right putting a cost on it because it's not the same experience. And at the end of the day, it's probably not going to move the needle enough for us. And it's just going to leave a bad taste in everyone's mouth, because so many places are trying to just help because kids are trapped in their houses. So I think we just kind of feel like we're going to put out whatever we can put out and hope that our customers come back as soon as we open, but that it's probably not worth trying to recreate it to the point where we would feel good charging for it,
Yeah.
I mean, if this starts going on through the summer, I may, change course on that. But I think for right now, we're kind of just trying to put some stuff out into the world and hope that it makes our customers more loyal. But, we're not going to try to nickel and dime it in the meantime.
Yeah, that's fair enough. That's fair enough. Yeah, it's a hard one to try to juggle about how do you actually still make money on top of keeping your business going. I know a few people who are transitioning, and I know people in the education world right now, and they're trying to transition to giving lessons online, but the kids are dealing with sitting there looking at screens all day now because they're doing it from home, and the parents don't want them doing that. So it's an awful hard juggling act. But I appreciate it. If you don't mind, I may reach out to Will afterwards to get your email, because I might have one or two people who might be able to help out with that storytelling idea and stuff like that.
Absolutely.
So I'll get your email.
Take all the help I can get.
Okay. Well, good luck with everything. I really appreciate your input this evening. Thank you. Let's have a look here. Participants. Okay. So I'm just checking to see if there's any other hands up. There aren't any other hands up right now. So I'm going to open it up to everybody. If anybody wants to say anything or has any suggestions or information, just to back up. We've had some really interesting, some good ideas right there from Gail and from Barbara, some great information from Alida. And it was great to hear from Samantha and John as well, and Laurie as well. That was a great suggestion about the virtual parties. I know we have 29 participants on here. If anybody else would like to say anything, if anybody else would like to have any observations that they've made about their local businesses in the past week or two, anything that we should be aware of, raise your hand.
Matt Bauer and Rob Burns from the East Midtown Partnership, Matt from Madison Avenue Bid are both on the call. I see Matt has raised his hand.
Let's get Matt in here. Hiya, Matt.
Hi, folks. Thanks for doing this. Yeah, hearing the same things, obviously, that you mentioned. Right now, there's about 40 businesses between 57th and 86th Street that are open. The vast majority of them are restaurants and a couple of grocery stores as well, including some multi-generation grocery stores like Gentile's, and some pharmacies like Zittimer, which is also multi-generation, and a store that actually, pharmacy that opened up about 2 weeks ago or 3 weeks ago called Medicine Apothecary. They just opened up. We've been trying to like everybody else here, we've been trying to get communications out, and we've been doing daily newsletters to about 1,200 of our members, and also alerting them to programming that's available. One thing that and we've been sharing with the community board, and we've been actually scour through Will's newsletters and pull things from us that I think from them, and I think it goes back and forth with all the bids in the city and how we get information to each other. The Manhattan Chamber of Commerce actually has been doing some really wonderful free webinars on how to apply for these different funding initiatives from the federal government. And actually there's one tomorrow at 2 o'clock. And another place that we've been getting this information, a lot of good webinars from, is from the National Retail Federation, which is obviously a nationwide organization. For their takes on how to apply for these different funding initiatives. One thing that has come up regarding the EIDL, $10,000 loan grant program, and the PPP is that you apply, if you say that you're utilizing the same $10,000 grant funding for the same thing that you're using the PPP grant, eventually when you try to get that grant forgiven or that loan forgiven, they're going to pull off that $10,000. So it's very important to say that you're using that money for a different purpose. And in terms of what we're doing for programming right now, we have dedicated social media campaigns targeted actually at our community, encouraging people to visit the restaurants and to shop local. And we actually have a campaign called Madison Avenue Now, where retailers every day we're posting a different offer experience from a Madison Avenue store that you could take advantage of right now. Some of it's online. Actually, just as we've been speaking, Carolina Herrera emailed that they're going to be doing a virtual wedding salon. So just getting something new every day. And we're very pleased that Women's Wear Daily covered it nationally. So anyway, it's important just to get that out. And we're just doing this as a social media campaign. I'm working with other bids in the city on a number of initiatives, and that's the scoop. But we're here to try to be supportive of our businesses, and I think just the fact of getting people together means a lot. So.
Absolutely. No, thank you for all the work that the Madison Avenue bid does, Matt. You guys are great, and it helps everybody in the community. Doesn't just apply to the business along Madison Avenue. If you don't mind, could I just take you back a little bit, and could you just repeat what you said concerning the PPP and EIDL loans when it comes to forgiveness? Because you cracked out a little bit there on the audio. I just want to make sure.
I'm sorry. There's a number of different initiatives in the CARES Act, which is, the two pieces that have that word grant in them and forgivable in them are actually two programs. One, this emergency loan grant fund. And
it's a disaster loan, EIDL.
Disaster loan, and the Paycheck Protection Program. The thing about the disaster loan, which by the way, after they initially released it, which that came out earlier, they made everybody reapply because they changed the actual form. The Treasury Department changed the form, I think Thursday last week. So everybody's had to reapply. But anyway, in that loan application, you say what you want, and you're actually applying to that not through a bank, but directly through the SBA. But when you apply for that, you have to say what you're using that money for. And part of the story is that if you apply, you're gonna get a $10,000 grant. It's sort of remarkable, but you do get a $10,000 essentially advance on your loan application, which is forgivable even if you don't get approved for the larger loan. The only issue is that a lot of people are also applying for the Paycheck Protection Program, and where you get up to 2.5 months or 2 months of payroll could be, or 2 months of your funding be forgivable. The story is, if you're using that money for the same thing, if you're using the disaster loan money for the same thing as the Paycheck Protection loan, then that $10,000 upfront grant will be eliminated from your forgiveness for the PPP. So it's just a matter of making sure that you stage the two applications to make sure that the two are separate. And there'll be better experts than me that I'll be talking about tomorrow afternoon at 2 o'clock for the Manhattan Chamber of Commerce free webinar. But
okay,
that's what I've been told numerous times.
Okay, it was explained to me that you're better off applying for one or the other. That for business owners, you can either apply for this one or this one, and that either one might have had some sort of benefits depending on your situation. But I didn't know that you could apply for both.
Yeah, no, you can apply for both. The issue is you want different things.
Yeah.
You want to essentially say that you're using the emergency disaster loan for things like payroll,
right,
rent, for utilities. You want to use it for something else.
Okay, very good.
That money would, if that's what the PPP covers.
Right. So and just to be clear as well, you applied to the SBA for the disaster loan, not a bank.
Right. That's
PPP
correct.
is with a bank.
Correct. And it has to be an SBA lender. So even the Madison Avenue bid itself, we're applying for a PPP loan. And our bank, we use Chase. Our bank, you could do a pre-application, but they haven't sent the final documentation. Yeah. Some banks do, some, as we've been hearing tonight, other banks have.
Very good. Thanks for all your help, Matt. I really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Take care. We're going to go to Barbara. Barbara has her hand up. Barbara Rudder.
Question, Matt. Would some of those businesses deliver, or do we have to go there, like the pharmacies, for instance?
Yes, they deliver.
So you could call up and
Zinnemer and the Madison Apothecary, they deliver.
And would you send us? Maybe you have, and I haven't noticed it, but I would rather shop there than Amazon because I'd rather support our neighborhood.
Matt, are those businesses on our list?
Yes.
Great.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you, Barbara. And that's another great way to support all our local businesses is to, have things delivered if you can. I see Billy Freeland, his hand is raised. So what do you want to say, Billy?
Oh,
how you doing? How are you?
Hey, I was unmuting myself while you were unmuting. I think I muted myself again.
That's all
right. So I had a couple ideas. One was, and this picks up on what Matt Bauer was saying, if the Manhattan Chamber of Commerce is doing a webinar, I wonder whether we could get those materials, either the video or the PowerPoint slides, if there are any, and share them on our website so we can share with local businesses. Here's how you apply for the PPP loan. Here's how you apply for the disaster loan. In the alternative, and sort of this is outside my CB8 role, but I'm working on a presentation to walk people through both how you apply for these small business loans as well as some of the unemployment and other benefits that are available. And we don't have work product yet on that, but if that gets into decent shape, I'd be willing to share that, and maybe if Mick and Alita, if there's interest, put that on our website. But I think the Chamber of Commerce has probably done a phenomenal job already, so I wonder whether they'd be open to doing that. And then my just second suggestion was, I love that Famiglia and others are trying to deliver to the hospitals, and Alita, you mentioned ordering for your doorman. I've done that myself as well. I think it's a great idea, but it's not very structured. And I wonder if it's possible to get some structure around that. So for example, whether through the bid or someone else, we ask apartment buildings, whether they be, willing to sign up and, arrange to pay for meals for, either the nearby hospital or for, doormen and, on the block, let's say 72nd Street, or get a local business to sign up and take a day on the calendar to donate pizzas or whatever to a nearby hospital. Because again, it's great that Famiglia is doing it, but it feels a little one-off right now. So those are just a couple of thoughts I had, and I'm curious whether there's a way to make them a little more institutionalized.
Those suggestions are great, Billy. I know there are some businesses out here who are doing their best for the community. I know for a fact that Maz Mezcal on 86th Street, who have been in our community for a long time and are really great restaurant and just great neighbors on top of it, they started a GoFundMe to fund the meals for the workers at Metropolitan Hospital. I was actually on the Malachy McCourt radio show yesterday morning on WBAI, and I chatted about them, the good work they're doing. By midday yesterday, they'd raised almost $10,000 for meals that they're providing to frontline workers and staff at Metropolitan. I think as we see this unfold, we're going to see more businesses taking it upon themselves to do that. I don't know how we would set up an infrastructure in terms of, buildings. I don't particularly live in one of those high-rise buildings with a doorman, so I'm not sure even how to kind of get that sort of thing started, but I'm sure there might be people on here who would be better versed. And I would absolutely be thrilled if the Manhattan Chamber of Commerce wouldn't mind us showing their webinar and any information I have, sharing it on our website. And again, back to what you just said, Billy, as well as what Barbara mentioned about our neighbor, yeah, the more people we can get out here to help people apply for these grants and loans, definitely the better. I see Rob Burns has his hand up. Let's go to Rob.
Thanks, Mick.
Hi, Rob.
I just want to jump in because this is fascinating, but I have another one of these in 7 minutes. I as always, echo exactly everything my colleague Matt Bauer is saying. We're doing very much the same things. In my case, it's a little tougher because I'm stranded in New Jersey, so can't get to the district if I want to. But I can see y'all over there. But I think one of the things we're trying to push, and this goes along with a lot, I mean, now that we know we're going to be shut down until at least April 29th in the state. One of the big things we're pushing and have been developing a plan for that we're probably going to be able to roll out in the next few days is to do a lot of our own efforts are going to be geared not only for us online, which already have to be, but getting our businesses online, whether it's getting them into Zoom seminars and filming it and getting it out there, FaceTime, anything we can do just to build more personal relationships when people can't get out of their houses and the businesses can't walk in at the front doors of the businesses. And I just also want to say before I have to jump off, the EIDL and the PPP programs we share, a lot of the dissatisfaction we're hearing here. They're well-intentioned, but the way they've been structured so far, and frankly, I am not a traditional enemy of the banks per se, but the banks aren't being particularly helpful here. I think that's because of a lot of direction, a lack of direction, I should say, out of SBA, the SBA. So that said, we will, unless someone has any questions, we'll stay in touch. This is great because this is a great way to attend a meeting. I got to say, I can make a lot more meetings through Zoom than I could in person. But we'll if you aren't subscribed to our mailing list, please do go to eastmidtown.org. The sign up link is right at the top of the page. Follow us on Facebook and Twitter. I'm on there constantly these days because what I have to do, what we all have to do now to keep things going. And we will come out of this, but it's not going to be easy, but we'll come out of it.
We will indeed. We will indeed, Rob. And thanks again for your efforts and your help, mate. Really appreciate it.
Thank you, everybody. We'll talk to you soon.
Talk to you soon. I see we have Alita's hand is raised. Alita, what would you like to say?
Thank you, Rob. If you're still on, and to Matt, thank you for letting us use some information in your newsletters. We really appreciate that. I did also want to say, Billy, that's a great idea. We're just sending a letter or putting a letter in the building. It's a small building, so we don't have a lot of staff for people to maybe do that, especially the ones that are out of town and want to do something to help. A lot of organizations, restaurants, small businesses are going on GoFundMe to try to raise money for themselves. So that's something that could be looked at. And GoFundMe is providing some matching grants for businesses who are able to raise a certain amount of money. And that's all I have to say. If you could figure out a way to get businesses, restaurants mobilized to do something that would be perceived as really useful in the sense of funding for food for the hospital workers or first responders or anybody else, I think that would be very good. And we could talk about that offline as well. Thanks so much, Mick.
Thank you very much, Alita. I really appreciate it. And I appreciate everyone tuning in. And I appreciate everyone, obviously, everyone contributing. Just some really great ideas there. I see Billy has his hand up. So Billy, let's go back to you, buddy. Hey, Billy, can you hear us?
Sorry, I'm still getting
okay.
I'll be
okay, buddy.
Just one potential model for trying to link up businesses with hospitals, for example. So people put together an Excel spreadsheet, a Google Doc, to get volunteers to donate their monthly Metro cards that they were no longer using to essential workers who needed them. And it's maybe not the perfect template for this, but you could imagine having an Excel spreadsheet where you invite, say a local business to sign up and say, I'm going to take this day of the week and I'm going to, donate whatever is 20 boxes of pizza to, XYZ hospitals. So that's just maybe one approach if we want to follow through on this.
Yeah, it's a great suggestion. The only thing that I'm fearful of at the moment is, we just had John from Mansion Diner on there, and I mean he's stuck it out the last couple of weeks, and it's just getting harder and harder to get staff. I think especially with the restaurants, and I'm not saying that this isn't impossible. I think everything is possible, but just from the business person's point of view, between staff, getting people into work enough, it's a great idea. It's just figuring out how to actually do it. When Alita was talking there, one idea that popped in my head was if we were all, those of us who've remained and who have stayed behind, were to put some sort of a note in our elevators or on our, in our stairwell or any kind of common area to, encourage neighbors to maybe do something like that, to order a pizza for, the local hospital, or for workers who are working in grocery stores, for instance. I mean, maybe that's how we get back to that, and maybe through Facebook and social media online. I see Matt Bauer has his hand up again, so I'm going to go back to Matt.
Just a quick thing. We've been following a lot of what Butterfield Market has been doing on Lexington Avenue, and they've actually created a funding mechanism, and people are giving donations, and they're making, you can see on their Facebook page and their other social media, they're really doing a lot of deliveries and to the hospitals. And one of the things I spoke about is, well, is there anything we can do? And and part of the issue was with the hospitals, I'm just paraphrasing what they told me, was that they're very specific about what they could accept in terms of food donations because of the sanitary issues, right? Or like packaged sandwiches, things like that are just very easy to stick in a big box and people could just quickly grab without having to, there's nothing, and apparently, of this, like the lounges in the hospitals are being turned over to COVID units. So there's no even any place like for them to go. So like they can't put things that are out. But they did apparently is they reached out a lot to individual hospitals and asked them, how do you want us to do this delivery? And that's what they were able to get. And I can maybe hook them up with Will and try to make that connection. But I think the point that you made, Mick, about also the grocery stores and the fire and everybody else who's essential right now.
The local precincts,
yeah, they could all they have much more of a wide range of what they could take. So that's a really good suggestion, and maybe it's even something that we could help out with because we're following.
No, I really do. I love the suggestion. It's a great suggestion, Billy. It's brilliant. It's just it's the nuts and bolts, I guess, of how to, and we'll figure that out. Matt, are you done there, mate?
Absolutely.
Oh, no, you're fine, man. I see a few more hands are raised here, so I'm just going to go to Michelle next. Hiya, Michelle.
Yeah, hello everybody. Hope you're all well. One thing that I was thinking, and that seems to be lacking in the supportive services of getting food to people in their apartments. The delivery services like Fresh Direct, Amazon, Whole Foods, the whole list of the big box stores that we all know about that delivery dates are going out 3 weeks or a month from now. In other words, you can go on and you can pick out all your stuff that you want, but you can't get a date for it to be delivered. I don't think there is such a thing. And I think since each of us only knows our little local bodega or our little local grocery, those stores might benefit from people ordering basics from them. In other words, the restaurants are great when you want to order a meal and we all try to support them. But if you need eggs or milk or bread, that kind of thing, it would be wonderful to be able to compile a list of little grocery stores that would be willing to take the orders by a telephone or email, however they would set it up. And then whatever mechanism they have, to the extent that they have staff coming in, would be able to deliver that to people. I haven't heard of such a list. I myself am not familiar with a lot of the groceries. I can picture some on some corners. If I had to reach out to them, I wouldn't know their name necessarily, just know them by location. If there's a way we can reach out via the community board email for anybody who has the name and telephone of a local grocer or bodega, and we could publish such a list. And then, of course, people would call in if the store was not in a position to do what we're talking about. They would simply say so. But I don't think anything like that from the small businesses exists. I think it would help them, and it would help individuals who are really quarantined or who can't get out.
Yeah, I agree with you. I do know that Gristedes, who I consider to be smaller than a lot of the big box stores like Whole Foods, etc., they are part of a program called Instacart. And I'm pretty sure Instacart, it's kind of like the Seamless, I guess, which is like a food delivery app. It's you can sign up in Gristedes and they will deliver groceries. Again, I'm sure there's probably a lot more people using that now, but Instacart is something that can be used specifically for that. And I agree about the smaller bodega type stores, but I mean, even in the last week, there's 3 right around me. They've all shut down, and these were usually places with maybe 2 people in there, if ever there was. But certainly, if you want to support the likes of Gristedes in our community, who I have to say, I've gone there on probably 3 occasions in the last 3 weeks. I do a general shop for the week now, and I leave it at that. So I'm not overbuying, but I'm also making sure I've got enough for the next 7 days. And Gristedes, in fairness, has been pretty well stocked since the very beginning of this, for the last 3 weeks or so. Apart from the hand sanitizers and toilet paper in the beginning, I mean, I go in there, whenever I go in there, I have no problem getting the basics like bread and eggs. So for people out there who might be interested, if you look up Instacart, I know that they definitely work with Gristedes in our neighborhood. And that's a great suggestion as well, Michelle. Thanks very much. I have a few more hands up here. I'm going to go to Monica McCain.
Can you hear me?
I can indeed. How are you?
All right. I'm sorry. I got onto this meeting kind of late, and actually some comments have come up to my question, which there's a health food store near here, it's a food store. And they had a sign up on Thursday saying we're going to be closed at 3 p.m. on Thursday temporarily. So I went in there on Friday, and they said they had to close because they didn't have any workers. Their workers disappeared. They didn't call in. They don't know if they're sick. And my thought is, well, all these people are out of work. And then, Mike, you just mentioned about people being, the bodegas closing or shutting down. Is there, what's going on with the labor market here? Or is there any way that labor somehow can be shared or communications coordinated via the community boards, this committee, or something else? I was completely shocked by what I heard. What do you know about that?
I mean, I don't know anything offhand myself about it. I can probably guess that in this neighborhood on the Upper East Side, an awful lot of the people who work in our local stores are from different neighborhoods. They're from different boroughs. So I can only imagine that that might be playing a factor. And we can see what's happening in Queens right now, with that being the epicenter. And from what I've read and what I've heard in terms of reports, a lot of the reason why that's happening is because it has a population that is at work. You know, a lot of the population out in Queens, for instance, are on the trains and on public transportation coming in and out of the city every day.
Right.
And obviously, you know, we're all watching the same news. So I'm sure between people being scared and people maybe getting sick. And also, you know, again, what's been mentioned to me by a few business owners, I mentioned this at the very beginning, is a lot of business owners are staying open now just to stay open, you know, because it looks good, because they're considered essential and they're trying to keep open. But it's we had John on earlier from the Mansion Diner, who's been at it for the last 3 or 4 weeks now, going on 4 weeks nearly into this crisis, and he's finally had to close down for exactly that reason, because he just cannot get the workers who are going to come in and work. You know, they're basically being told that unemployment is available, so go get that instead. So I really don't know what to say to you. If there's anybody else out there who might have something to kind of speak to about that, I really appreciate you pointing that out. And again, it's one of these, it's a health food store, like kind of like a mom and pop kind of a shop, or?
Well, they've got several branches. There's one in Great Neck, one in Queens, one in the Upper East Side, one near the UN. And, you know, it just seems like, you know, you hear about people losing their jobs, right? And like, here's a store that needs workers. Yeah. Is there any way we can do something to connect these needing businesses with people out of work who want a job?
I mean, I would imagine there's places for people to go that they can post their jobs online.
You would think.
Maybe that's something myself and Will and Alida, let's have a little chat about that, maybe amongst ourselves, to see if there's anything we can do in terms of posting stuff on our website. I really appreciate that, Monica. Hello.
Oh, that's me. And I know Matt Bauer at the Madison Avenue Bid has a job listing on their website for folks on Madison. He's not looking like it's probably a good place to send people. Maybe it is. But if you guys have any other job boards, job listings that you want to share with the office to aggregate, we can start aggregating those things.
Okay, I'll start looking up a few of those myself tonight. Thanks for sharing that with us, Monica. I really appreciate that.
All right, thanks for the work you're doing. This is important.
Thank you so much. Take care, and we'll all get through this together. Hiya, Barbara. I see Barbara has your hand up.
Again, yes. I just have a comment about the food to the hospitals. The little I know, I'm in touch with Metropolitan Hospital. I'm on their community advisory board. We as a board are getting money together, but there is a very specific person that you go to. You can't just send send 20 pizza boxes to Metropolitan Hospital. They do have to go through a whole process. And I assume that's true in every single hospital. So you have to find out who the contact person is and the process to do it. I know it makes you feel good. I have to tell you, I gave my doormen money because they had said they don't necessarily want food delivered. I asked what I can do, and I ended up personally, just on a personal level, just to make me feel better, because I'm so appreciative. The one other industry that I would love to find, I couldn't find a laundromat to do it. I don't like going down to my laundry room anymore. It was crowded and I was not happy doing it. And I would love to know more laundromat pickup. The ones that I knew about are not open anymore. And that really, I think that's going to be the story as we go on.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, my own laundry just closed today, actually. So,
yeah. So where are you going?
And I feel the exact same way about you, about shared enclosed shared spaces. So it's when one door shuts lately, another one seems to shut as well. It's kind of tough.
Mm-hmm.
But that's a good thing to know there, that if we are reaching out to hospitals,
that to be open.
To find and if we're reaching out to hospitals,
shop at the bodegas, and I think that was a great idea.
Yeah, it is a great idea, it really is. And also, if we are reaching out to hospitals about food deliveries, to get in touch with a contact person that deals with them.
I gather they love it, but I think everybody just wants to do whatever they can do for the people, and that's sort of like a simple thing to do. But I think they have what I hear. I have a building with a load of the healthcare workers, so everybody, doctors and nurses, and they say there's just so much food because people love them. Besides clapping at 7 o'clock, they don't know what else to do. And
I know.
So
it really shows the positive side of people in all these kind of crises does shine through, really. But it's a good idea to get a liaison person. Maybe that's something I can do myself, is look out to see
Metropolitan if anybody's interested.
At the hospitals. Okay, that's great. Thanks so much, Barbara. We have John Phillips is got his hand raised. Hi, John.
Hey, how you doing there? So there's a couple things I want to say about pretty much everything everyone said over the last 10 or 15 minutes, because I have some firsthand experience with how this stuff is flowing out. Firstly, the deliveries to hospitals, I've seen a big movement toward individually boxed sandwiches. Like everyone's mentioned, all you need is a contact person there. We have, as I mentioned, the NYU, I have 350 sandwiches going out to them on Wednesday, all boxed, all labeled. So anybody who wants to get involved in stuff like that, please keep that in mind. Secondarily, the mansion, we've been kind of acting almost as a market to a degree. You brought up the bodegas and people trying to get those essentials. We've been selling, dozens of eggs and quarts of milk and things that people may need for the household. The recommendation is, if there's a trusted restaurant or store, they, I would imagine, would be more than happy to help whoever out with whatever they need, and not charge them according to the menu. We went as far as procuring chemicals, sanitizers, and face masks for people in the neighborhood as well, because we have access to that stuff. So a lot of guys who own restaurants are really open-minded with regard to the needs of people in the community. The laundromat, there is one laundromat still open on 80, I believe it's 83rd between York and East End. I'm not sure if they're a wash and fold or a dry cleaners, but I know that they're still open as of yesterday. Yeah, that's pretty much all I wanted to say. Any business that's open, the long and the short of it is that any business that's open right now will try to service their customers in any way they need. So if someone feels like they're short on a grocery item, a restaurant, I'm sure, will be more than happy to supply that.
Help out. You said that you're closing on Thursday, unfortunately. Does that mean that the market, that end of the business is going to be?
Unfortunately, yes. Oh, and another thing I wanted to say, another real concern, and this is probably the reason why I have to close on Thursday, is frankly, the staff that you don't normally have, you don't know what they're coming in the store with. So many of my staff members I've kind of put to the outskirts because I would rather deal with a controlled group as opposed to, my normal 56 member staff. So I've been working with about 15 guys. Someone feels a little ill with a stomach ache, I send them, anything that's a little bit off, they go. I have a number of my staff who just don't want to risk coming in for very real reasons. I tell them not to come in. We've gotten to the point where my entire counter staff has expressed a concern to the degree that I don't feel comfortable forcing them to come in. Now, could I find someone else to work that position? Probably. Is it going to be in the best interest of my customers, the community, and my other staff members? Probably not. Now, if this was going to go on for 6 more months, I would say, okay, we should be pushing in that direction. Hopefully, within the next 2 weeks, we should start to see a turnaround. If we don't, then we're going to have to make some very long-term decisions. But right now, it's a matter of, as they say, flattening that curve and being, responsible in a very real way to all the people around us.
Here, here. Thanks for sharing that, John. I appreciate it. I've got Gail Barron. Hiya, Gail.
Hi there. A couple of things regarding Instacart. You can sign up by the month, or you can have an annual fee. Basically D'Agostino's, Christie's, Morton Williams, CVS, so they cover a lot of stores. But because Fresh Direct has been so overloaded, and it's hard now to get a Costco delivery into Manhattan, they too are really, if you're lucky, you get a slot that's a week or a week and a half out, and you have to try 5 or 6 times during the day. You figure if it's Christie's you want, you just keep going on periodically, and then I think you might be fortunate enough to get a slot. So I think that the idea of reaching out to some of the local restaurants to see whether or not we could actually purchase food from them, even if you're not purchasing a cooked meal, is a great idea. And finding a list of bodegas. Now we also are buying some meals for our doormen, but the other thing that one of our shareholders did was she ordered a large box of snacks. So she got all sorts of savory things and sweet things. And the staff has been so appreciative. They get tired, they're running around, and just to be able to have a bag of chips or a package of cookies. And it's another nice way of being able to say, we really appreciate this, and you're part of us, and we're all in this together.
That's great. That's great. Just to add to what you just said there, Gail, about the Instacart, I do know that my own local Christie's, I tend to go there. I cover up, I put on gloves and everything else. But I know that they do offer deliveries if you ask them to. You can ask them to deliver as well. So if online doesn't work, and if you're not opposed to going and doing your own shopping, that might be something that you can have a face-to-face conversation behind the plexiglass with people with. And that's a great idea about just not even pizzas, just snack boxes, because they keep, if we were to kind of deliver those to doormen, people in the essential businesses that are still at work right now, that's something that, again, could be appreciated. And like Barbara said earlier, a lot of the time as well, a lot of this is because we feel we want to do something right as well,
Exactly. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Gail. I appreciate it. Let me just see here. All right.
And Mick, one thing that I don't know if has been pointed out on our website is a list, and I know other elected officials have created lists that we've sort of borrowed from, of the senior hours and immunocompromised hours that local grocery stores are having, usually at the very beginning of the day. But you can go onto our website and find that entire list that we've put together for all the grocery stores in our neighborhood that have specialty hours for seniors at the beginning of the day.
That's great. That's on the CB8.com, right? CB8M.com. That's great.
I'll put the link of that in again on the chat.
Fantastic. Okay, that's great. Well, I really appreciate everyone coming by tonight. I would say safe home, but I assume you're all at home anyway. So just stay safe and stay healthy. And thank you for your suggestions tonight. And just, yeah, if you need to reach out to your local businesses, please do, and stay healthy and safe, everybody. Thanks so much. Oh,
Thank you.
sorry, I just see Alida has her hand raised. I'm so sorry. Pardon me. Hi, Alida.
Thank you, Mick. I just want to close from my perspective by saying thank you for all of your really good ideas. I've made some notes. We're going to be putting a lot of information, such as shopping at bodegas, putting together potential job listings, even though I'm cognizant of what John was saying about not knowing what people might be bringing to a particular place. So I have a list of a lot of your information that should show up on our website along or in our updates. So I want to thank you, and thank you, Mick, for doing this and for taking care of the small businesses. We all know how essential they are to the quality of life in the community. And so supporting them makes a big difference, even if it's just one small meal at a time. So thank you.
Thank you. Thanks for everyone for your suggestions as well. That was great.
All right, adjourned.
Yes, the meeting's adjourned. Thank you. Take care, guys.
Good night. Oops.
Good night.